Hello everyone, welcome to the Geoecologist. I am Dr. Krishnanand, and in today's session we are going to learn about a very interesting revolution that happened in the methodology part of geography. So what is this revolution all about? How did it reshape the thinking in geographical studies? So let's understand about the quantitative revolution. Basically, the quantitative methodology that came into the mainframe of research, especially in the geographical studies. So in this session, we are going to learn about the key aspects of quantitative revolution. So before we go ahead, please like and subscribe to our channel and don't forget to press the bell icon for the updates. So let's understand this quantitative revolution, its meaning. Basically, it means applying quantitative methods. So what was this revolution about? About the methodological changes in the discipline of geography rather than anything else. So it is basically talking about change in the methods. So when geographers used to do research, they used to apply basic approach of region before this particular revolution began. So the chorological approach, that is we say the distribution approach, or what we understand as descriptive approach. So this was the main approach in geography before this revolution started. So if we remember what happened in 1940s or maybe 1950s, that there was a wide scale change in the world system. The World War II led to lots of development in thinking, in science and technology, in restructuring of spaces. So this also led to the change in methodology, the methodology design in research, especially in geographical studies as well. So what we find is, after the work of 1939 areal differentiation that we study from Richard Hartshorne's work that we have already covered in areal differentiation lecture, we find that in 1950s in Schaeffer's work, it was criticized and said that exceptionalism in geography should be avoided. Means we should stop looking at only exceptions or uniqueness. Rather than what we should do is, we should study to make general laws. So the idea was changed to nomothetic, that we have studied the approaches. So nomothetic approach was favored for geography, and that is where quantitative revolution started. So let's understand it furthermore. So when we study this quantitative revolution, we credit this quantitative revolution beginning to the works of Fred Kurt Schaeffer in 1953, as we have understood. His publication Exceptionalism in Geography, a methodological examination, paved way for the understanding of geography that could be different from areal differentiation. So chorological description or areal differentiation viewpoint was criticized, and it was said that it's important to make laws or explanatory laws in geography rather than just study it as an immature science in the way of areal differentiation. To gain maturity, to gain stability, to gain validity, and also with that rationality, objectivity, these are the basic principles on which this particular movement, or we can say revolution, was built. So the idea was that rather than seeking ideographic regions as the core, geographers should seek nomothetic regularities across region. So we should not study these uniquenesses only, but we should rather focus on creating a thread that binds all these uniqueness into one, so that we can say that this is a law that binds everything else. So this would give a more validation to geographers' work. So this idea was proposed in this particular work of Schaeffer, and it revolutionized the geographical thought. So let's understand how it did. So the first thing that we see here is the advent of positivism, as there was a growth in science and technology during that time period. So it led to revolution in a way where everything was supposed to be scientifically explained. Everything was supposed to be logically and rationally with objectivity explained in geographical phenomena as well, which was not there earlier, because earlier it was more of a descriptive phenomena writing in geography. So this led to the impact of a great level. That's why we say revolution, because before this there were very few generalizations that were made. only uniquenesses were being studied. Although quantitative techniques were not new, but this kind of revolution was not there that happened in 50s and got matured in 60s and 70s. So let's understand it. So basic idea of this revolution was based on the use of statistical and mathematical techniques in the geographical models or the understanding of spaces, phenomena, interactions. So what geographers did was applied this quantitative tool. So we see here in this flow diagram that quantitative tool has these two particular techniques we see, statistical and mathematical. So statistical was for those phenomena which was relevant for decision making, which had relativeness in character. It basically means that it was not just 2 plus 2 is equal to 4. This was mathematics. But now here 2 plus 2 could be greater than 4, could be equal to 4, could be less than 4, could be less than equal to 4. So all these possibilities were explored through these statistical techniques, because we understand that geographical phenomena are dynamic. So absoluteness and relativeness, both the methodologies were applied in the form of mathematical techniques and statistical techniques. So we have several techniques that we see. Linear, that is space-time forecasting model. Non-linear, that is spectral analysis came into being. Social physics came into being. Economics, largely the domination of the economic geography came into being, and usage of the physical models, the physics model of gravity and location and all those important theories. So new theories that came into being were all leading from the front together with scientific explanation of the modern science, that is modern physics, largely taking into the consideration. So we see here after this 1950s, after this Hartshorne-Sheffer debate, the study in geography changed its course from the areal differentiation, that is largely from the regional approach, towards this particular spatial integration approach, talking about the relativeness in these spaces and spatial integration, spatial interaction. So now geographers did not have to study uniquenesses, rather than find those important linkages between these uniquenesses and bind them to a common thread and start making laws. So this was the advent of nomothetic approach in geography in a revolutionary manner. Not that this approach was not there before, but revolution means at a great leap. So that was important. Sheffer, with his spatial organization paradigm, initiated this, which is called quantitative or theoretical revolution in geography, which actually got matured through the various works of Anglo-American geographers like Peter Haggett, R.J. Chorley, W. Bunge, David Harvey. Although David Harvey, after his work Explanation in Geography, he shifted his position and became a Marxist geographer later on, but his work Explanation in Geography was of one of a kind, which contributed to this particular quantitative revolution in geography. So now let's identify several features or the characteristics of this particular revolution that started in mid-50s and got matured in 60s. So what are the basic essential features? So let's understand. The first is the Newtonian physics provided ideas of gravity and potential as well. So the gravity model, especially this model in the geographic flow studies of people, things, all these kind of like movement of people from A to B, from rural area to the urban area, the size of the town, all these things that we study was now looked through this gravity model. The works in transport geography using the geometry in axioms of topology. Urban sociology afforded the intra and intermetropolitan explanatory models of population, sociological characteristics. Then remember the German school of thought, the locational theories now came to the forefront. For example, agricultural land use, industrial location, urban economic settlement patterns that were already given by famous scholars like von Thunen, Weber. Now again these theories came to the forefront and got lots of importance from people all around the world, because now this was part of the neo-economics theory, neoclassical economics theory basically, which had focus on rationality, which had focus on objectivity, which had focus on integration rather than differentiation. So these are the main numerous characteristics of the quantitative revolution in geography. Then, the use of this particular sophisticated statistical techniques and mathematical methods led to further development in the methodology. So, multivariate data analysis and inferential statistical techniques came to being. So, we remember the works of Peter Haggett and Chorley. The locational analysis in geography and furthermore was highly popular and accepted all around. Then, the computerization during this part of the late 60s and early 70s, we find the emergence of new geography, the rise of positivism that we say through science and technology. This was the talk of the town everywhere, in every university, in every geography department, that there is this alternate philosophical justification of geographical research that is through positivism. So this amalgamated and further enhanced the quantitative revolution in geographical studies. So David Harvey's Explanation in Geography, published in 1969, was the culminating volume that led to this particular legitimization of quantitative revolution, and it was talking about this logical positivism for the explanation of geographical phenomena, events, all those things that we study in geography. So we need to understand the main objectives of this revolution, that why this revolution happened, what were the main achievements or the objectives that led to this particular revolution. So first objective was to change the descriptive characters. So people had this idea that normally all the art subjects that we study are descriptive in nature, but geography is highly scientific, so it should go away from descriptive characteristic. So how will it go? By making general laws, by making general principles which are valid throughout the world, making it more scientific and more validated. So it had an objective to explain and interpret spatial patterns in terms of rationality, objectivity, cogent manner. So that was important. The use of mathematical language, for example, in Köppen's classification of climate, what we saw was the usage of codification. So furthermore, when advancement happened, lots of codification of different phenomena, and essentially when we study about the plate tectonic theories and other theories in 1960s, we see the impact of quantitative revolution on the modern theories that emerged in geomorphology or other segments of physical geography like climatology, oceanography, and also in the urban geography. So another objective was to make precise statements, that is generalizations about locational order, about location of cities, towns, places that we study, that how this particular place is located and how can it be precisely given in the form of a statement, about a general statement that would cater to all such locations in the world rather than just only specific location. Then testing of hypotheses and formulate models, theories and laws became the core of geography during this particular time period. Then, to identify the ideal locations for various economic activities that profit may be maximized was another important point. So now, the characteristic of man that we study was part of the nature earlier. Now man became economic, that we say. So now the concept of man was economic man, who was there to maximize the profit rather than the ecological man who used to live in sync with the nature. So this idea of economic man came to the fore. So to provide geography a sound philosophical and theoretical base became one of the most important objective of this movement, of this revolution, that led to a wide scale change in the methodology and objective of this particular discipline. Further, we see that in the formulation of these models, theories, they assumed certain important things. As we said, man is a rational or economic person. That was the first assumption. Then man has an infinite knowledge of his space. So man is going to be king. So now everything we see here is human-centric completely. So man has all the knowledge of environment and resource. He is an economic man. He has this motive of profit maximization. And the science and technology is there to help him, to aid him to take decisions. Then they assumed that space was an isotropic surface. It basically means that space was isotropic in nature during this model making in geography. Why? Because every point in the space would be of same potential. So in that case, the constant factor would be there. So as we see in physical model that we have universal gravitational constants like other constants in Planck's constant, in other physical theories that we study. So similarly here, to make certain things constant, these assumptions were made that it is an isotropical surface. So this was formulated to make laws, because for most of the laws that we study, there are certain constants and there are certain variables. But unfortunately what we see is that in geography most of the phenomena is not constant. They are variable in nature. So that was one of the criticism of this approach, that when we are saying that the surface is isotropic, it does not relate to the actual environment. It does not relate to the actual place. So this assumption was questioned. Furthermore, the normative questions, for example, cultural values, attitude, custom, behavior, all those things like prejudices, aesthetic values did not have any place in this revolution. It was completely talking about lawmaking, about objectivity, about application of science, about application of mathematics, about application of statistical techniques to find results, quantify, express in numbers, in percentages. So this normative thought of this behavior of human being, of belief of human being, of cultures was absent. And that's why parallel to this quantitative revolution, what we see is the coming of behavioral geography. That's why behavior at the parallel to this quantitative revolution started becoming important, because people who believed in this revolution was also contradicted at the same time by people who did not believe. They said that normative questions must be answered because human beings are not robots. They are not mechanical in nature. They have belief system, they have emotions, they have prejudices. Their behavior cannot be described in the form of an algorithm. So this was important. That's why we find the critique of this quantitative revolution as well, and we find the coming of humanistic tradition in geography with rise of behavioralism, rise of Marxism, and further more that we study in upcoming lectures. So now, when we have studied about the quantitative revolution and its impact in geography, also its major attributes, its characteristics, and the assumptions, we understand that what were the main reasons for this revolution, as well as how did it impact the methodology part in geographical research. So, for more lectures to come, stay tuned, stay safe, and all the best wishes.